We were married on July 7th, 1984. We made covenants with each other before God, but we had no idea what covenant was.
I thought we had a good marriage. I was under deceit.
When they fought, I would always hide under the bed, and they had always promised me, we're never going to get a divorce, but I never did feel secure in that.
But in my mind, I thought we're okay, we have a good marriage, until I realized what a good marriage truly was after the fact. And I realized, wow, this was not a good marriage.
You always notice when your family's being affected by what you do in your secret sin. I knew it was affecting us because it kept me apart from being intimate with Priscilla.
I had found out that he had pornography, that there was pornography several years before. God revealed it. He let it out, opened it up, because he wanted to heal our marriage.
I always thought that this is as far as it would go for me. And I always asked God to forgive me after every time I looked at pornography, but I always thought this is as far as it was going to go for me. But sin is never satisfied. And I did commit adultery. I actually felt the presence of God leave me. And it devastated the family, devastated Priscilla, devastated the girls.
I felt like ash, and I just felt like the living dead.
Well, in all honesty, I didn't feel anything because it just didn't shock me, because there was always that knowing that he wasn't doing something right.
The Lord, a couple of days later, gave me a vision, and it was of this army man. He'd been hit, and he was breathing like this. I can barely breathe, and I looked at that and I said, wow, how could that soldier be alive? And God said, you're the soldier. You've been hit. And then I went to Monday night prayer, and a woman began prophesying and saying, you've been hit, but the Lord wants you to know that you're going to have the victory. And so I went to him and I said, God wants this marriage, and as long as you're willing, I'm going to be willing. And we need to make a foundation. We weren't living our marriage the way that it should be. It was wrong in every way. It was part world, part God, and it wasn't done God's way, and that's why we had this devastation. We found out that there was counseling through our church here at Name. They had a Name Center here, and so we went when we had no hope. They prayed for us after a session, the first session, and they began to weep for us, weep for our situation. And I was touched beyond words. We were both blown away by the compassion and the love that they had for us.
In our cesspool of garbage that God was trying to restore, God also told me and Priscilla individually that we were going to be counselors. And I told God, no way. But God, He actually brought friends to us that were come to our house on their knees, crying because their marriage is falling apart. And I just looked at God like, what are you doing? We're not even restored, but you're bringing these people to us, and then you're giving us the wisdom to counsel them. But that was the beginning of God training us up to be counselors.
The most important thing is having the relationship with God. That's the most important, and the very first thing that needed to be done for us. That was the first thing. We spent hours with God. We put God first in our life. He began to show us and walk us step by step how to get out of this, how to forgive. He healed our hearts. And so it's that relationship with God that's going to do it. That's the only thing that's going to do it. It's like the triangle that we teach our couples, where God is here, husband, wife. As we get closer to God, like this, we get closer to each other as a couple. And so that's the main thing. We need to become willing and obedient. And that's what we did. We became willing and obedient to what God would have us to do. And that's how our marriage was restored by the grace of God.
Never give up. Keep on praying, because miracles do happen. And God is there. And as long as you keep praying, it's going to happen. So don't lose hope, because we're living proof of that.